For centuries, humanity has searched in frustration for the mythical fountain of youth. Perhaps their failure to locate the wellspring of eternal life can be explained by their philosophical approach to the pursuit of youth. Had they not been so intently focused on finding the material manifestation of a fountain overflowing with the waters of restoration, and instead concentrated their attention to the vast and beautiful world inside themselves, the ultimate goal of prolonged youth could have been easily achievable. Natives of the mystical and wondrous land of Tibet tell the story of decrepit old men who, after a short time under the instruction of the local priests, completely regained their health and virility. The Tibetan lamas discovered and perfected the embodiment of the mythical fountain of youth, the Five Rites of Rejuvenation. These lamas believe that the body has 7 centers of activity which are called vortexes. These are magnetic centers which revolve at great speed in the healthy body, but when slowed down signify advanced age, poor health, and senility. These spinning centers of activity extend beyond the flesh in those bodies in the bloom of life, but in the weak, senile, aged person, they hardly reach the surface. Thus, the quickest way to regain health, youth, and vitality is to start these magnetic centers, or vortexes, spinning again. There are 5 practices that will do all this. The Tibetan lamas think of them as religious rites, and so we too shall refer to them as such. The 5 rites are intended to speed the magnetic centers into action in order to promote well-being. There are 7 such vortexes located within the human body. Vortex A can be found within the forehead. Vortex B is present in the dorsal section of the brain. Vortex C is in the region of the throat at the base of the neck. Vortex D is located on the right side of the body near the waistline. Vortex E is found in the reproductive organs and is directly connected with Vortex C in the throat. Vortexes F and G exist 1 in each knee. These psychic vortexes revolve at great speed. When they are all revolving quickly at the same rate of speed, the body is in perfect condition. When one or more of them slow down, a loss of power and senility occur. The vortexes of the average active, healthy young person normally spin at the same rate of speed. However, those of the average inactive, unhealthy, middle-aged person move at varying, slower speeds. As we can see, these vortexes have slowed down in their spinning movement, and they are all spinning at different rates of speed. They are not working together in harmony. The slower ones have allowed the part of the body that they govern to degenerate and ultimately become diseased. The faster ones have caused nervousness and nerve exhaustion. Thus, the difference between youth and virility and old age and senility is the difference in the rate of speed at which the vortexes are spinning. Simply normalize the various vortex speeds and the old person becomes a new one again. This is precisely what the 5 rites accomplish. All that is necessary to restore youth and vitality is to practice the 5 rites 10 minutes a day. Positive results will be seen in 6 short weeks. Surely the 5 Tibetan rites are the true fountain of youth. Let us now examine the individual rites and demonstrate how they are performed. Rite number 1. This first rite is a simple exercise that we incorporated into our play as children. Its purpose is to speed up the vortexes. Stand erect with your arms outstretched so that they are horizontal with the shoulders. Now spin around from left to right until you become slightly dizzy. It is important that you always move clockwise from left to right when performing this rite. At first, the average adult will only be able to spin around about a half a dozen times until they become dizzy enough to desire rest. To start with, only practice this rite to the point of slight dizziness. As time passes and your vortexes become more rapid in movement, you should be able to practice this first rite for a longer period of time. The lamas have found that the whirling exercise should not be carried to an excess. Instead, a greater benefit is obtained by restricting its repetition to a dozen or so times, enough so that this rite can stimulate the vortexes to action without any negative effects. Rite number 2. Like rite number 1, this second rite is for further stimulating the 7 vortexes to action. In this rite, lie flat on your back on the floor. Be sure to lie on an exercise mat or a rug so that the body does not come into contact with the cold floor. Once you are in position on the mat, place the hands down flat alongside the hips. The fingers should be kept close together with the fingertips of each hand turned slightly toward one another. Then the feet are raised until the legs are straight up. If it is possible, let the feet extend back over the body toward the head, but do not allow the knees to bend. Slowly lower the feet to the floor for a moment to allow all of the muscles to relax. After a moment, start the rite all over again. Weaker people may have trouble lifting both their legs when they first attempt to perform this simple rite. If this is the case, do not be discouraged. Simply start out by lifting the thighs until the knees are straight up, letting the feet hang down. Little by little, you will be able to straighten out your legs, and by the end of 3 months, you should be able to raise them with perfect ease. Rite number 3. The third rite is also very simple and should be performed immediately after practicing rite number 2. Kneel on your exercise mat and place your hands on your thighs. Lean forward slightly with the head inclined so that the chin rests on the chest. Now lean backwards as far as possible. At the same time, the head should be lifted and thrown back as far as it will go. Bring the head up along with the body. Lean forward and repeat the rite. This rite is very effective in speeding up vortexes C, D, and E, especially vortex E. It is recommended that you follow the example of the lamas who, in order to turn their attention within, close their eyes while practicing this rite. In this way, they do not become confused by their environment and have their attention diverted away from the performance of this rite. Rite number 4. At first, this fourth rite will seem difficult, but after a week it will be as simple to perform as any of the others. Sit on the exercise mat with your feet stretched out in front of you. Now place the hands alongside the body and bend the knees so that the legs are, from below the knees, straight up and down. The arms should also be straight up and down, while the body from the shoulders to the knees will be horizontal. Before pushing the body to a horizontal position, the chin should be well down on the chest. Then, as the body is raised, the head should be allowed to gently drop backwards as far as it will go. When the body is pressed up to the complete horizontal position, tense every muscle in the body. Now loosen the tension, return to a sitting position, and relax for a moment before repeating the procedure. This fourth rite will stimulate vortexes C, E, F, and G. Some older and weaker people sometimes have a difficult time with this particular rite. Some can hardly get their bodies off the floor, let alone in a horizontal position. Often these people will feel that they must perform this rite perfectly for it to have a beneficial effect. This is not the case. While it is a difficult rite, it should nevertheless be practiced to the best of one's ability. If you faithfully practice this rite in the best way you can, you will see gratifying results in 1 month's time. Rite number 5. To perform this rite, lie down on your stomach on the exercise mat. Place the hands palm down alongside the body so that the elbows are pointed toward the ceiling, and then stretch the legs apart in the shape of a V so that they are about 2 feet apart at the ankles. Now push the body, especially the hips, up as far as possible, rising up onto the toes and fingertips. At the same time, the chin should be pressed against the chest. After a moment, allow the body to come down slowly to a sagging position while bringing the head up off of the chest and pushing it toward the back. Start the exercise again by bringing the chin to the chest and pushing the body upward. Before the end of the first week of practice, the average person will find that this particular rite is one of the easiest to perform. When you become quite proficient in this movement, try to let the body drop from its highest position to a point almost, but not quite, touching the floor. The muscles should be tensed for a moment when the body is at both its highest and lowest points during this exercise. To return to health, vigor, and virility, practice these 5 rites 3 times a day to begin with, and gradually increase them by 2 every week until each is being performed 21 times a day. This will be at the end of the 10th week. If you cannot practice the whirling rite, rite number 1, the same number of repetitions as the others, then only perform it as many times as you can without becoming too dizzy. It is important that you are not discouraged by any difficulty you may have performing these rites. Practice these rites as best you can, and results will slowly but surely come. Of course, one must practice the rites every day to regain one's robust vitality. The use of the 5 rites demands no hardship at all. It requires less than 10 minutes a day to perform them. At first, the rites can be practiced once a day, either in the morning or evening, depending upon which period is more convenient for you. If time is tight in your life, try getting up 10 minutes earlier in the morning or going to bed 10 minutes later at night. When you are able to perform them the full number of times without strain, add a second daily session in which you gradually build up the number of repetitions until you are practicing the 5 rites twice a day, both in the morning and the evening. If you have recently been operated on for, say, appendicitis, or are afflicted with a hernia, you should be very cautious in practicing rites number 2 and 5. Also, if you happen to be very heavy, be careful when you are performing rite number 5 until your weight has been sufficiently reduced. Even if you are unable to perform the rites the prescribed number of times, rest assured that practicing them just a few times each will be of benefit to you. If at the end of the 4th week, you find that you cannot perform every one of the rites the necessary number of times, note carefully which ones you are forced to slight. Then you should attempt to make up the deficient ones during your 2nd session. In any case, you should not neglect any of the rites, and above all, you should never strain yourself. If you persist in practicing the rites in an easy and interesting manner, it will not be long before you are doing them the required 21 times a day. There are 2 additional things which will help you practice these rites. First, between each of the rites, stand erect with the hands on the hips and take 1 or 2 deep breaths. Second, after practicing the rites, quickly go over the body with first a wet and then a dry towel. There is one caution. Never take a shower, tub, or wet towel bath which is cold enough to chill you even slightly internally immediately after performing the rites. If you do so, you will have undone all the good you have gained from the 5 Tibetan rites. More than 2.5 millenniums ago, the Tibetan Lamas discovered that all good things come from within. That is, that every worthwhile thing must have its origin within the individual. This is something we Westerners have never been able to understand. We have been led to believe that anything of value must come from the world outside. Clearly, our materialistic philosophy is an obstacle on the path to our enlightenment. Most of humanity, especially those in the industrialized nations, is still in the Dark Ages. However, they are being prepared for better and more glorious things, and when they can be initiated into the higher life, the world will be a much better place in which to live. The Tibetan Lamas have been performing a great service for this world on the astral plane from which they assist humanity in all quarters of the globe. This plane is high enough above the vibrations of the world to be a focal point where much can be accomplished with little loss of effort. Someday, the world will awaken with amazement to what the unseen forces, the forces of good, have been doing for the masses. We who take ourselves in hand and make new creatures of ourselves in every imaginable way are doing a marvelous service not only for ourselves, but to humanity as a whole. Already the efforts of these advanced individuals are being welded together into one irresistible power. A new day is dawning for this world, but it is only through the continuing efforts of individuals like the Lamas and that of you and me that the world can possibly be helped. You have been given simple rites and practices because the simple things will bring you health, youth, virility, and ultimately success when nothing else will. So start immediately. Any effort you put forth will be rewarded. If you faithfully follow the 5 rites of the Tibetan Lamas, you will come to see that the eye of revelation is truly upon us. A 10-minute exercise session follows. When you practice the rites for the first time, follow along with the video to ensure that you are performing them correctly. Feel free to watch this section of the 5 Rites of Rejuvenation whenever you perform the 5 rites. Above all, remember to start slowly and work up to the recommended speed. Practice the rites faithfully and begin your journey to the Fountain of Youth.